minute to introduce today's program, which we are calling Who I Am. And that actually comes from a national campaign for disability employment that was funded by the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy. And this campaign was created to challenge the misconceptions that surround disability and to generate the kind of awareness that will ultimately dissolve the stigma that's associated with disability. Specifically, the Who I Am campaign was designed to force the question, when we look at someone, do we see all of who they are? And I think that is such a wonderful and important question for us to ask. And it has particularly interesting implications when we think about disability, because disability can be something that's apparent and it can also be something that's hidden. So I want to take a minute to acknowledge courageous and interesting students that are with us today for their willingness to step forward and to remind us and to encourage us, whether it's a disability, whether it's race or ethnicity, sexuality or religion, personal history and experience. If we are to make the world a kinder and better world, we have to be willing to see one another for the complex, dynamic, and nuanced individuals that we really are, because when we really start to look at one another in that way, we begin to engage with one another respectfully and with compassion and curiosity. And so these students who are willing to share their stories and their time today are engaging in that important discussion with us. So I cannot applaud them enough. So without further introduction from me, I would like to introduce our panelists. Those individuals who are with us today are Cole Hall. And so I will first toss the ball to Cole so that he can introduce himself to all of you.
Hello, my name's Cole Hall. I'm currently redoing my accounting degree due to a few traumatic brain injuries. My career goals is to become a funeral director, and I'm going to, after here, go to PIMS, which is Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Sciences, and then go on to Point Park University to get my bachelor's in funeral directing. And I'm also the financial secretary for SGA.
Awesome, Cole. Thank you so much. And our second panelist today is Joseph Richardson. So Joe, I'm going to toss the ball to you now and allow you to do your introductions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm Joe. I'm a little bit older. I'm 38. I've got a little bit more of a diverse background as far as I started in 2000 in the military in the Army. Deployed to Iraq. We got some nasty poisoning over there. We've lost quite a few soldiers already to cancer. But then I did 10 years in law enforcement, and I have to choose another path. And now I'm looking at psychology through the vocational rehabilitation program at the VA. And once I'm done at Northern, I go to Westlib for 2 years, and then to WVU for another 2 to 4 years.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, so what we're going to do today, just a couple of quick housekeeping and how we're going to move forward with our discussion. If you wouldn't mind, please ensure that you are muted while the discussion is going on, unless you are speaking, so that we don't get any interference or distraction for those who are speaking. If you have questions that you don't want to forget, please feel free to post those in the chat. And we definitely want to leave some time at the end for any of you to share comments or questions with Cole and Joe, our panelists. And I will acknowledge that we originally intended to have two other individuals with us today. Jennifer Gutman, unfortunately, she was not able to be with us today, and Hannah Main was to be with us as well. I'm hopeful perhaps Hannah will be able to join us. Maybe she's just having some technical difficulties. If she does, we'll certainly welcome her as soon as she is able to connect with us. So otherwise, what we're going to do today is we're going to proceed with some specific questions, and Cole and Joe will respond to the various questions in turn. So the first thing that both gentlemen are actually going to respond to today is, as they approached college, how were they feeling about that process, and what were they anticipating in terms of students who are coming into college with disabilities? So Cole, we'll go ahead and begin that question with you.
I was extremely nervous to start school again because the doctor told me that it would be 4 years for my brain to be considered fully healed, and that I had to prove that I still know what I once knew. So I wasn't prepared for how much time each class would take me with studying habits and everything like that. So the accommodations really do help me, and I seeked in the first semester. I sought out tutoring, and that helped me immensely with knowing what study habits to help me now with.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Cole. So Joe, what about you? What was that experience like for you?
Thanks. At first I was, I'm 37, 38 years old and getting ready to start school again. How long have I been out? What have I forgotten, in that amount of time? But I'm very much a perfectionist. And so if I'm not excelling at something, I go over and above, what I need to do. One of my big issues is I've got some eye problems. They said it looks like I've stared at the sun for like 10 years straight. From being over there, I guess, I don't know. But so to read and to study, it really slows me down. And when I started applying for the accommodations, hey, I'm asking for a little bit more time because on tennis and stuff, I see swirls when I'm trying to read. Nothing's a straight line. So I felt like I was like, are they questioning me as far as, am I looking to cheat, or, am I just looking to get extra time, or is this guy really got these problems? So that kind of made me nervous for a while, but they've all been really understanding and helpful, and knowing what I went through and what's going on with my eyes.
Okay, and we're going to continue with Joe, and he's going to speak a little bit to, with regard to disability. Access is always a topic of concern. So Joe's going to speak a little bit to the challenges or access issues that he's faced in school and in the workplace.
Yeah, the access hasn't, it's not been really difficult to get. The computers and stuff, everything's, transitioned online because of the COVID. And so I'm looking at computer screens a lot more. Like I said, with my eyes, it bothers me. But, as long as the accommodations are there, I'm able to take my time and, blink constantly or look away from the screen and just let my eyes relax, or, I get these massive headaches. So that whole accommodation has really helped in that aspect.
All right. Outstanding. So regarding, of course, challenges and issues of access, certainly as a college student, communication is vital, and communication with faculty becomes especially important in the academic environment. So Cole is going to talk a little bit about how he communicates with faculty regarding accommodation.
I wait until every student's out of the classroom to speak to my teachers about it. I show them a copy of my letter of accommodations, and I discuss with them what accommodations can be used in their classes. And since the whole COVID switched to online and everything, now it's a little easier to, instead of having to wait until every student's out of the classroom, now I can just send them a private email with the letter of accommodation attached and discuss it all with them at that point. I don't like interrupting class with it, and I do have the accommodations to record lectures, so when I am bringing in my recording device, I speak to the teacher before the class even starts and before any other classmates make it into the classroom.
Yeah, and Joe, we won't put you on the spot, but do you want to add anything to what Cole just said regarding communication with your faculty? How has that worked for you?
Yeah, I agree as far as just, wait until everybody's already left the classroom. It's kind of like almost like an embarrassment thing where you don't like to call it out in front of everybody. So yeah, definitely wait until everybody leaves. We're trying to get there first. I'm usually one of the first in the class, having C classes, just so I can talk to the teachers. And definitely, they realize this one.
Joe, we're losing you a little bit. Your sound is cutting out.
Well, that stinks.
I know, doesn't it though? Try turning off your video and see if that helps a little bit.
Hey, let's see, stop video. All right, does that help any?
Yeah, so far so good. Let's give it a whirl and see. So I'm sorry.
Okay.
Will you speak to that again? You were talking
Okay.
about wanting to make sure that you waited, you could talk individually to the instructor, and what was the rest of that?
Right. Yeah, I'm usually I try to be the first one in the classroom. I go pretty early just so that I can, address any issues I may be having that day. A lot of my stuff is day to day. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not sure how I'm going to be feeling. And so anytime I've got an NC class, I go early just to let them know, if anything's going on that day. And email with NC or over the with COVID going on, emails really helped a lot, and the teachers really respond well to quickly getting back to you, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm glad to hear both of you talking about keeping those lines of communication open and what method of communication is really working well for you. And so let's talk a little bit more then about how you learn and how you work. Joe, let's throw that to you. What would you like folks to know and to understand about how you learn and how you work?
I work very slow, and I'm very meticulous. So if I how do I explain it? There's a lot of times that I'll have to go over something over and over and over, and that will take me like all week just to try to get the lesson in like twice. So and then I can get frustrated really quickly and just be like, I'm done, or I'll keep the language worse than that, but I can get frustrated and just throw my hands up and say I'm done, but then go cool off and come back to it and do it all over again. And usually after 3 or 4 times, I can get to it.
Okay, good. Yeah, time is often a consideration. Cole, and not to put you on the spot either, but is there anything you'd like to add to that in terms of how you learn and how you work?
Well, like I stated, I have the accommodation to be able to record lectures because when people speak, my brain processes it a lot slower. So in order to take notes, I'm back on like the third thing you said before now. So I kind of require the recorded lectures just to be able to keep up with my note taking.
Absolutely. What do you think, Cole, and we'll continue with you. What's one thing or what are a few things that you think would be most helpful for you as a college student with a disability?
Honestly, the extended test times and being able to take my tests in a room completely by myself is most helpful, because in order for me to be able to understand what question I'm reading on the paper, I have to speak it out loud to myself. And then I also have to speak out all the options of answers before I can actually decide which answer is the best one.
Okay, Joe, you want to pick up anything there? What do you think one thing would be, or a few things that would be most helpful for you as a college student with a disability?
Sure. I got a few things. I definitely agree with his extended test time and being able to take it by yourself. That really helps. I've also found my brain works really weird, and with music, like even like an old song, if I hear it, I'll remember exactly what I was doing 25 years ago at the exact same spot um, when I heard it the first time. So with music, if I'm listening to music while I'm studying, that seems to help a lot because for some reason it kind of puts the tracks in my brain. Um, so when I'm taking tests, I'm usually listening to the same music over and over so that it kind of, if that makes sense, puts it all together. And then another thing that would actually help is this kind of little bit different is the registration process. Like nobody at the school knows how to work with the vocational rehabilitation. So not only am I dealing with my classes, but I'm pretty well doing all of the administration's paperwork as well, or at least staying on top of them to make sure they're doing it when it should just be being pushed through. And it's just a big headache and stress, and like it's every semester that the exact same thing is going on, and they can never do it without me getting on them and saying, hey, you've got to do this. So it's kind of a headache and can be very stressful because I'm getting emails from the vocational rehabilitation rep at the VA saying, hey, the school's not doing this, this, and this, and they've got to do this, this, and this, or you're not going to be able to be in the program. So then you get on the school, and the school's like, oh, no, I think we did that. And then they're like, oh, no, we forgot to do that. And, so that is a big stress.
Yeah, so communication, right? I guess that's another key communication piece all around. Communication is so important.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so that brings us to strategies, right? And Joe, you just kind of identified there, a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but as individuals, the strategies that you've developed for being proactive and ensuring that you kind of have what you need to succeed, right? We talk about self-advocacy among those with neurodiversity or disability being a very key piece. So Cole, let's throw that over and start with you.
The strategies that I use for productivity is I always carry a planner with me everywhere I go. It has every appointment or even day-to-day things that I need to pick up at like a store or something. And then for homework, I always carry to-do lists, and I have every single homework assignment and week written down, and I actually have to physically check them off or draw a line through them. If I draw a line through them, then they weren't accomplished. If I check them off, then they were completed. Same with the planner.
And you have visuals, Cole, which is another excellent strategy for neurodiversity. Awesome. Okay, Joe, what can you add to that?
Wow, he really upped the game there. For my list and the way I go about it is everything is in my phone, which is connected to my computer, which is connected to my iPad. So I've got constant reminders of everything that I need to get done. Usually when a semester starts, I have a friend that I let her go through my classes on Blackboard, and she writes down everything that I have due in the syllabus. And then I put them all into my phone. And then that way I know I get alerts, like a month before, a week before, an hour before, so that I can keep track of what I do have to do and when it is due.
Okay, and so we're going to go off script a little bit, and I want everyone to know that when we put this panel together, I met with the 4 students who agreed to participate in the panel, and so they all were given the questions in advance, so they could kind of think a little bit about what questions they wanted to answer and how they wanted to answer them. And so I want to recognize, first of all, Cole and Joe for taking the time to do that. And already I've put both of them on the spot and threw questions to them that they didn't really necessarily plan to speak to. And they've done that so beautifully and handled that so beautifully already. And I also asked, because we had 4 panelists and a limited amount of time, I did ask that they consider and keep each answer to a certain length of time so that we can ensure everyone had an opportunity to share and to speak to everything they wanted to speak to. So we were planning for 4 panelists, and we ended up with just the 2. So we do have some extra time, and because I know Cole and Joe can handle it, I would like to ask them one off-script question. So both Cole and Joe, as a result of life experience, came to have disability later in life. So I would like to ask both of you what it was like for you, particularly as you came back into a school environment, to kind of deal with, boy, the experience for me now is very different than the experience that I remember prior to, having my current disability or condition. If that question makes sense, I would ask both of you to respond to that question. Cole, will you get us started, and then Joe will cut back over to you? Does that make sense, Cole? Does that question make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Before my injuries and everything, I was a pretty lazy student who wasn't very punctual with assignments or anything, keep to-do lists, even go by a planner. In order for me to succeed after the injuries and everything, I have learned that I really do need to be punctual. The grades do matter now. Before I was able to get an A without even really working hard. Now I have to work 120% just to get the same A. It takes a little more time, but I think honestly now the experience through college is a lot better than what it was for me the first time, because now I'm actually putting forth the effort, paying attention, focusing, being very punctual.
So maybe you've picked up some good habits too as a result, right?
Yes.
Of maybe being forced to do some things that you didn't have to do before. And Joe, and what about you?
I agree. When I was younger and in school, everything came easy. I didn't have to try. Everything just kind of fell in place. For tests and everything, I never studied. It all was just right there. Um, just going to lectures and stuff, I retained it all. Now everything is so much different, and actually studying, and I'm struggling, and it's just a whole new part of life, and it's interesting, but I wouldn't change it. It's fun.
Okay, and so if we could, why don't we open it up to questions? I know Cole and Joe are more than happy to respond to any questions that you may have for them. Feel free to unmute and ask away.
Cole and Joe, this is Mary Ellen. First, thank you for participating. This has been really insightful. And I just want to share with you that a lot of things you're saying, I find relative to myself and to students that I work with regularly. And I think it goes back to CJ's introduction of, we all have some kind of disability on some level. And I wondered, are you ever able to share with other students, these accommodations are available to you? Or when you hear them saying something like, if I just had quiet or a little more time for a test, have you ever had that experience and maybe shared with them that there are accommodations available or something like that?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple students that suffer functional autism that have came to me about extended test times, and I have directed them to the academic support center.
That's a great
Yeah.
question. Yeah, Joe, go ahead, please.
A couple, or I think it was last semester or the semester before, they started a veterans organization at the school. And I don't know how, but I ended up as president of this organization. And so there's been a lot of veterans that I've spoken to and let them know that there's different avenues for them, especially the traumatic brain injuries that are coming back, and that sort of thing, to let them know that there is help and that they're not alone, and if they're struggling, we can work on some things with the school to help them out.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that. And thank you for all your tips on organizing. I wish we could just get that down with all of us and our students. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Awesome question. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Cole and Joe are full of great information.
Yeah, I have one. This is Kathy Harrington. So sometimes I have a student that I feel is in trouble, and I try to refer them to CJ and the Academic Support Center, and they don't seem to want to go. They seem to feel like that would be embarrassing, or they're ashamed to ask for the help, or they don't want to be identified. And it's almost like they feel like they're in trouble if I pointed out that they were having difficulty and tried to refer them for help. So anything you can offer so I can help them with that impression that they need to be embarrassed or ashamed, or that they're in trouble because I noticed they were having problems.
Yeah, great question, guys. What would you suggest?
So would you like to go first?
Sure. That one's kind of a hard question, because you almost look at that like you look at drug addiction is, unless they really want to get the help, they're not going to, seek it out right then. And it's hard to approach somebody about that. So unless they're really wanting to go, to get the help, I know for the longest time I struggled with not wanting to go do it either. And then I got to where I just knew that I needed to go and talk to some people about getting the added time and stuff like that. So I'm not sure an answer on that one.
Yeah, because I'm always afraid that we'll lose them somewhere. They say, oh, well, I can't do this, and they give up, and I'm not sure what else to do. So I appreciate that that is difficult. What was it that finally made you come around or made it click for you that I really need to access these services?
I was really struggling, and knowing how I used to be compared to now, and how it was taking me so much longer to learn things, and how much slower and how much frustration I was getting out of it, I realized that, yeah, there's some stuff going on with me that I definitely need the added time and things like that. I guess I could say send them my way, and I'll see if I can talk them into it.
Anything?
I know I was very embarrassed whenever I first came to Northern about speaking with CJ about it, but it seemed like everybody in the Academic Support Center didn't judge me and didn't make it really embarrassing. They kept it one-on-one meetings with closed doors so no one would hear, no one would see, and it made it a little easier knowing that the only time that the teachers would be made aware was when they were receiving my letter of accommodations and when I spoke to them face to face or through email. No other students around would be able to hear unless I said it in front of them.
Okay, but it took you first getting to the Academic Support Center, because I know once people go there, they're usually like, wow, that was really helpful, and they didn't treat me any different, and it was good. So, but you have to be willing to walk through the door, like Joe is saying, right?
Yeah. What got me through was knowing that I needed to score around about the same that I did the last time, or else my neurologist would not sign off on me being able to learn new stuff, because I have to prove that I still know what I once knew.
Huh. Wow, okay.
I actually have a question. Do you feel, both of you, both Cole and Joe, do you feel that at West Virginia Northern that we do a good job of helping, taking your accommodations seriously? Is there things that I know Joe mentioned sometimes an issue with some of the paperwork on the administrative side, but are there other things that we should be doing here at Northern that we're not currently doing, or what are we doing really well? I'm just interested in your feedback on that.
I can go first if you want, Cole. I think as far as the educational side, it's handled really well. I don't know that I would change anything on the way it's handled. Maybe if anything, maybe make it a little more knowledgeable as far as those things exist some way. There's accommodations available, so that maybe we could get a few more people that were needing help, like Miss Harrington asked. Maybe that would bring them over. But like working with the teachers, and they're amazing. Like they give us no issue, or at least me, no issues whatsoever. And usually, whatever my accommodations are, they'll either match it, or they'll ask if they need to go beyond that. They'll help me even more if I need even more help. So they're really, really great at working with the school.
Cole, yeah, anything to add?
I have nothing to add besides the fact that I think Northern does a great job with on the faculty side and the staff side with helping us with accommodations on the administration too. It doesn't feel like a lot. I do get the emails and I'm able to talk to them through the email instead of being face to face with them.
Hey, Cole, when you entered the process to get some assistance, did you know before you started that your consultation would be private?
No, I did not.
I wonder if other students realize that it can be confidential and private. So just an interesting thing to think about. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments?
Just on that topic, I'll say one more thing, CJ. You know, and the faculty put in our syllabi the information about your office's services. Maybe we could even, maybe we could consider, I don't know, this is up to you, even adding statement to that private confidential consultations are available.
Sure.
I don't know. Just saying.
I think that's a good idea, Darcy, because I don't know that they know that it will be confidential. And, you know, the embarrassment and shame factor, that this doesn't mean you're in trouble. You know, how do we get that across to them that we're doing this to help you, not to make you feel bad or get you in trouble?
Yeah, and Cole, were you explaining that you felt relieved once you found out that you met with CJ and it was private and nobody was going to hear?
Yes, I felt a lot more confident about it.
Okay.
I would just add, I think that maybe communication with students to understand that not only is your meeting confidential, but when that letter of accommodation goes, it does not include details. You know, there's no access to your history or testing or specifics of any student's particular diagnoses or difficulties or anything like that. It is just approved accommodations. And I don't know exactly when or how. Again, they would have to darken our door here for us to communicate that in some respects. But to ensure the confidentiality, for me, I think there's a kind of a balance between ensuring confidentiality, but within that, it is almost implying embarrassment or some kind of shame or stigma. And if we can shift that conversation, and the two of you have obviously come quite a long way with that by being able to and willing to participate here, which we appreciate. But wanting to emphasize and ensure confidentiality without reinforcing stigma and shame as a staff person, that's kind of a fine line to tread, and how we communicate and project that. I'm not entirely sure how we promote the advocacy and destigmatize. If you have any thoughts or comments or suggestions there.
Well, Christy, we are thinking in the same lane. Yes. And that's where my thoughts keep going back to, how do we overcome that? One little step at a time, by doing the things that Cole and Joe were willing to come forward and do today. And so again, I go back to that act of courage and curiosity and the willingness to come forward and say. And also so delighted to hear, Joe, both of you say, heck yeah, I'd be willing to share with other students. Heck yeah, I've referred other students, right? How does that stigma dissolve? Through recognition, through awareness, and through conversation. So again, Christy, I appreciate your comments and can't say enough how much I appreciate Cole and Joe and the other two panelists as well, even though they were unable to make it to be with us today, but their willingness to come forward and say, heck yeah, this is the world that we're living in. It's one of diversity, and neurodiversity is certainly a part of that. So I can't say how strongly appreciate that. Becky, yeah?
I just wondered, have there ever been any kind of, for lack of a better term, support group for people like Joe and Cole? Would it be advantageous if there was a support group, a network of other students that you could always reach out to, so that if you had concerns or difficulties or questions that other students would maybe help with, other than talking with your peers in school, rather than somebody in the academic success center or somebody in our administration? Would you find any value in some kind of a support group?
Oh yeah. I feel like a support group would make a lot more students feel more comfortable with coming forward to another student about needing help versus coming to a teacher or administration.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. And I'm very outspoken, and I'll tell them anything I think. So, I mean, I would be more than willing to meet with other students that were having issues. Say, hey, this stuff is available, and they're not judgmental, because that was my big thing. Was when I first applied, I thought, man, they're going to be so judgmental of me, and it kind of makes you be afraid to go in there, because you're wondering what they're actually going to think. But then I do kind of take it a step further, and every semester when I send my letter to the teachers, I kind of tell them, some of the stuff that I do have going on, just I'm like, I'm not making this stuff up. Here's what I actually been diagnosed with and what's going on. I'm not just some person looking to cheat the system, I guess.
That's a great point, Joe. Such a good point. And to pick up in the same vein, we encourage students, though that letter does not reveal anything, it is confidential, and the only individual, we as staff are not permitted to disclose or to share that information about why those accommodations have been put in place. The only person who can do that is the individual, him or herself. And we do encourage students, when you speak with your faculty, just disclose to them, share with them. You certainly don't have to, but the more they understand and the more they know, the better able they are to help and to assist and to understand how you learn and what you need and how they can support and help you. So we do encourage students to share that information with faculty. And again, in the same vein of lessening the stigma and encouraging students to become their own advocates. So that's very, very important. So kudos to you on that, Joe, for sure. Any other questions or comments? We're doing a great job with wait time today. I will say that, and it has yielded some wonderful questions and results. Any other comments or questions?
I would just like to thank both Cole and Joe for, sharing their experience with the rest of us. I think it's very important for us to hear these things and to know that we're doing the right things, and that, we're offering you the support that you need to be successful. So I appreciate hearing from both of you. Thank you very much.
We should, if you can unmute, this is a fantastic way to end our session. If you can unmute for just a second, I think we should all actually literally give these two gentlemen a round of applause. 1, 2, 3. Let them hear it. Let them hear it. What a wonderful thing. So I really feel like in some way we just kind of got the ball rolling today. Cole and Joe, you are responsible for doing that. So I can't thank you enough. And many thanks to the rest of you for making time in what I know are very busy schedules to support these two young men and listen to their experiences today. So on that note, we will end our event. Thank you all so much for being here. Cole and Joe, you rock.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
See ya.
See you.